Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the warm introduction, and hello, North Carolina. Oh, okay. The people booing must have lost to one of our teams in basketball. All right. Great to be with you. Since I've been a kid, podiums these size have never been my friend. But then again, I'm not here for the visual, I guess. But I am, I think, for most of you, literally a talking head at the moment. Well, thank you all for being here. It is, you know the importance of your engagement here in Washington. You know how heavily regulated you are, and you know how important the legislative branch and the regulators are to your capacity to provide products to my constituents and to the American people, your members. And so I'm grateful for what you do, and I'm glad that you're here in Washington. But I want to tell you a little of my story about why what you do is so vitally important. I would tell you that my service on the Financial Services Committee is not some abstraction. It's not about a type of regulation. It is not the movement of money that motivates me. It's the experience my father had starting a small business in our backyard. And my father and a business partner both had 5 kids, and they wanted to make a little extra money. So they started a business mowing grass. And they'd convinced somebody to loan them a lawnmower, which enabled them to start making some money. And then they were able to leverage that and using a credit card into starting a business to provide for their families. So I think of the challenges my father had starting his small business and why what you do for Main Street America and to help families makes such a great difference, not to change the world, but to change communities' lives and to change individuals' capacity to provide for themselves. So that's my motivation in ensuring that we have healthy credit unions and a healthy marketplace. So, and I know that's what motivates you every day to serve your members. Now, here in Washington, we have a broader fight and a broader challenge that I must raise, especially today. We have rhetoric that capitalism is irredeemable, that the American dream is dead. That's not what I hear when I'm in North Carolina. That's not what you hear from your members, but this is the rhetoric of Washington politicians. And unfortunately, we're fighting for really the direction of our country. And it's not high-flying finance that is the issue. No, everybody understands what that is. It's the capacity to deliver products to average, everyday individuals that are being encroached upon by really outlandish rhetoric and actions by a few in Washington. I think it's important that we remind people that it's our system that works and that how we use that system needs to be updated. Our laws need to be updated, our responsiveness to our people needs to be updated, and that capacity is still within us to ensure that we have laws that represent the values of our country and elected officials that represent the values of our country. And so, in the midst of all this stuff and all this debate, there are serious debates on Capitol Hill that matter to you and to your members. And so, I think everything we do in the Financial Services Committee should be aimed at America's Main Street financial institutions. And the front line of that are you, the leaders of our credit unions in our communities. So, if you look over the last 30 years, community financial institutions have gone from holding over 30% of the assets within our financial system, now down to 6.6. And if you look at the number of credit unions, you've seen credit unions drop by 14% over the last decade. Now, the last time I checked, you weren't the cause of the financial crisis. Now, but unfortunately in the marketplace, you're being held to account for the mistakes of others. And that's why we've had bad law that applies to you and bad regulation that applies to you that should not be applied to credit unions. And so the decline in the consolidation in the financial system is a direct repercussion of bad law and bad regulation. That is driving small institutions out of business or to consolidate. And that is having a severe impact on choice in our communities, financial choice in our communities. So you being here in Washington enables policymakers to put real stories and real lives to these complex pieces of regulation and law. You can tell how very simple pieces of legislation here become very complex in your institution and make it very expensive for you to provide basic products for your members. Those are the stories you need to tell. And so we all know your high priority. And we also know the slowness of the process here in Washington. So your engagement to communicate on the need for BSA and AML reform is necessary. Your engagement to ensure that we have better cybersecurity and data privacy laws, and to understand the nature of the data privacy laws that we have and how they apply to financial institutions. You need to convey those messages. And yes, even the issue of pot banking. All right, we have like 3 people from Oregon laughing. Okay. So these are major issues that we have to communicate. And take, for instance, just one accounting standard that all of you now understand deeply, and that's CECL, right? Now, how many of you had thought that CECL was an accounting regulation 2 years ago, right? No, you thought it was a weird-sounding name, right? No offense to any CECLs here, but to explain how a simple piece of accounting regulation can affect your ability to make a loan, ensure somebody can have access to a mortgage, and understand how that applies to even something as simple as a savings account. That is very important for you to convey in real-world terms as you go tackle the Hill. So, I want to... Thanks. Now, I know you've had a very good couple of days and you're heading to the Hill. The weather will be better by the time you get to leave here today, I promise. But I think it's vitally important that you deeply engage with your members of Congress, members of the House and Senate. I know most of you have already done this before. How many of you are here for this event for the first time? All right. Excellent. Welcome, newbies. So that is fantastic. The takeaway for you that are here for the first time is that you have to show up on a regular basis and explain what you do and the value you provide to the constituents of members of the House and Senate. That gives your association the added strength and the opportunity to change regulation and change law that is withholding economic opportunity from our citizens. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for what you do to ensure that my constituents and people like my father have access to financial products that fits them and is responsive to them. Thanks so much for what you do in our communities every day, and thank you for being here. God bless.